Call to order the Planning Commission meeting for Thursday, May 19th, 2022. Please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Brown, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Commissioner Knobloch. Here. Commissioner Heikkila.
Here.
Commissioner Bradley. Here. Commissioner Casey.
Here.
Commissioner Schmolke. She is not here. Commissioner Geisler.
Here.
And Chair Schwartz.
Here. All right, our first order of business this evening is to adopt our agenda.
So moved.
Second?
Motion by Heikkila, second by Knobloch. Any discussion or corrections, additions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? And the agenda is adopted. Next, we have approval of the minutes of our March 17th meeting.
Chair Schwartz.
Commissioner Knobloch.
I move that we approve the minutes of the March 17th meeting.
Second.
Motion by Knobloch, second by Casey. Any corrections or additions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And the minutes are approved. Our first case this evening is Planning Case 22-9, a subdivision exception. Phil Grudell at 10860 and 10870 Mississippi Boulevard. Mr. Brown.
Right. Good evening, Commissioners. We just have this one planning case on the agenda tonight. This is at 10860 and 10870 Mississippi Boulevard. The petitioner is seeking to adjust the boundary between the two lots. The petitioner actually owns both of the properties. He's seeking to shift or kind of add a notch to the boundary between the two of them to basically transfer 656 square feet of land from one to the other. That would be from the northern of the two properties, 10870, to the southern one, 10860, where he currently lives. And the reason for this adjustment is that the existing house on the property at 10860 was built in 1949, predates our current zoning code and setback requirements. So that house has just a 6-foot 9-inch setback from the north property line in the LDR1 zoning district where this is required, or where this is located. A 15-foot side yard setback would be required. Of course, that existing house has legal non-conforming rights to that setback, but the petitioner wants to construct an addition onto the front of the house and basically extend that existing north building line. In order to do that, he'd prefer to have a conforming setback, or that's what city code would require. So he's proposing shifting that property line to the north so that both the existing house and the addition would have the required 15-foot setback. So that's basically what's going on here. Both lots, of course, are much larger than what the code requires. In LDR1, we just require a 15,000 square foot minimum lot size. These lots are just over 44,000 square feet, just over 31,000 square feet. So they're well in excess of that, and this shift of 656 square feet won't really change that. We are recommending approval of this subdivision exception with one condition, and that is the required drainage and utility easements are provided. These lots were platted long enough ago that there weren't perimeter drainage and utility easements, which are now and have been for a while required by the subdivision ordinance. So I can answer any questions. The petitioner is here. He can, I think, cover anything I didn't cover, and certainly can answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Commission, any questions for Mr. Brown? Mr. Brown, is there a reason why they didn't just move the entire property line?
Yeah, and I'll ask the petitioner to provide a little more detail. You can see, and on this graphic, of course, the cross-hatched area is what he proposes to transfer from one property to the other. One of the reasons for that is that there's an existing gazebo close to the river that's on the currently the 10870 property. He would like to keep that on that property, so that is part of the reason. He also just expressed interest in kind of making this, providing as little disruption as possible, transferring as little property as possible, but I'll let him explain that in a little more detail.
Chair Schwartz,
Commissioner Knobloch?
I have a question for Mr. Brown. As I went by there and looked at, is there current clearing or development going on right now?
There is not
Okay.
that I'm aware of. I can have the petitioner clarify that a little bit, but as far as I know, I mean, certainly no permits have been issued for the addition yet or anything like that.
Commissioner Geisler?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Nowak, just, Centerpoint was out there doing some work, that's why there's some calls
Okay,
out there.
thank you for
Just for
clarifying
clarifying.
that. Thank you, thank you.
Mr. Brown, if I may, could this have easily also been handled under our variance process instead of a lot line adjustment if for the applicant?
We looked at that and struggled a little bit just because this is kind of an odd situation. We actually don't have that many instances in the city where there is a non-conforming setback, just because the requirements have been the same through most of the city's history. This, of course, is a rather old house. We did consider that, struggled a little bit about just whether, you know, a house addition could very well meet the findings of a variance. Kind of concluded that this proposal is probably the better option of shifting the lot line, and then that brings the whole house into compliance.
Mr. Brown, what's the actual width of that piece of property that's being transferred?
I can take a look at that. I need to zoom in a bit over what is shown there. I guess I don't have the exact dimension, but it is about just a little over 8 feet.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Brown at this time? Is there anything the petitioner would like to add? If so, please come to the microphone.
You can come on up.
Give your name and address for the record.
My name is Phil Grudell. Address is 10860 Mississippi Boulevard. And just to kind of clarify what Matt was saying about the gazebo issue, we had considered actually, yes, doing it. It would make more sense. It would seem more logical to just start up at the roadside corner and kind of take a little piece of pie and meet the setback and have a nice straight line. However, that gazebo is not accessible from the 10860 property. So if we do that, then we're kind of shooting ourselves in the foot about the use of that, and it's a kind of a cool little feature to have on a property on this other thing there. So, and then other than that, it's just minimizing basically the land loss to that northern lot there. Our intention, we have no intention of delineating that line in any fashion. So there's an existing pool fence on that, is on the existing lot line right now, and we have no intention of moving that either. So we're not changing any of the sight line or anything, and we're not going to make it look awkward. We have no intent for that. So I don't know if there's. Please feel free to ask questions.
Do you know what the width of that piece of property is?
I can't read it on it. Matt, you don't have one of those those Mylars are.
Those aren't, I did.
If I brought I only brought my tiny one and I can't read it.
8.1 feet.
Yeah, it was, I remember it just being a little bit over 8 feet is all.
Is there a reason that it needs to be at that angle like that? Is that done for a specific reason?
I just thought that was a little more lending to bringing trucks around back if it ever came to the properties, a different owner on the other property or something, and we, on the southern lot, it just, I don't know, it felt better that way than just to have a straight line there. I don't know, it kind of softened the blow, I guess, because like I said, originally, yes, we talked about, we really just wanted to take a little piece of pie and do it, but, so, other than just a softer transition than the 90-degree thing was the only real reason for that.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Geisler?
Mr. Grudell, is there any underground irrigation or any other aspects on that northern property that would be in the transfer area?
No, there's nothing underground on the 10870.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I knew what I was trying to say. Somebody was talking about that. So yes, the center point energy thing with the road and the shoulder lanes being closed was actually on our behalf. We had to have a new gas line run from the main line under the right of way up to the house. So we wrapped that up yesterday. So hopefully that mess disappears sooner than later too.
And there's currently a residence or building on the north property?
There is, yep. It's actually I think it's the blue rectangle up there, which is also in violation of the setback on its north line.
Did you say it doesn't meet the setbacks?
Yeah, it doesn't. On the north side, it does not.
Yeah,
So
right.
it was,
Okay.
it predated it as well. So
Sure.
All right, thank you. We may have more questions for you later.
all right, very well, thank you.
Thank you. All right, at this time, I will open a public hearing in planning case 22-9, a subdivision exception, 10860 and 10870 Mississippi Boulevard. Anyone present wish to speak at the public hearing? Anyone wish to speak at the public hearing? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing. Limit comments to the commission.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Geisler.
So overall, I am all for the intent of what we're trying to do here, get a non-conforming into conforming, allow the homeowner to develop his home the way he would like to, all those great things. I'm not a huge fan of a puzzle piece cutout here that feels a little awkward. For me, if there was from the back, from the riverside pin went to the pin that was on the top of the bluff, which leaves the gazebo in place, and the boulevard side pin went all the way down to the boulevard to create a little more straight line that would just be flattened. I feel like it would maintain the look. If you go up and down on the boulevard there, every single lot line is boulevard to river, straight line all the way through. That said, this is not the most egregious of cutouts that we have potentially seen happen around, so it's not necessarily a huge concern for me. But I would prefer to see that as a straighter line, thinking forward along the lines of what would somebody expect if they were to purchase that home later on, and they would expect to see pretty much a straight line with maybe one or two inflection points on it. But that little cutout just creates a weird spot, especially if it's visually not represented as my land, where there's a fence 2 feet in, but nope, that's theirs, but who's got what? So it does create a little bit of a weirdness for me with that puzzle piece style cutout that doesn't extend effectively the length of the property or the length of the usable property. The bluff line there, for those who aren't aware, is the elevation lines are very steep. So doing anything down back to the riverfront is kind of moot, but to the top of the bluff line would be what's usable backyard. But other than that, I'm all for the intent of what we're trying to do here.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chair, I can understand what
Commissioner
Commissioner,
Heikler?
excuse me, I can understand what Commissioner Geisler is saying, but and I do think, the weird configuration there is a little off, but like you say, it's not as big an issue as would make me vote against it, so I would say
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Casey?
and we are talking the same property owner, so he has some flexibility there with what he wants to do. So I too would, be okay. I'll overlook the cutout piece. I'll vote for it.
Well, you have to remember that at this point, it's the same property owner, but it's,
Right.
into the future, it may not always be the same property owner.
Correct. I don't know how to deal with that future.
Any other comments, thoughts?
Mr. Chair, I do have a question.
Commissioner Geisler?
Mr. Brown, as far as the easements go, would the city be requesting easements along all three boundaries then in this case? So the northern, the divided, and the southern?
Yes, that's right. And we've talked a little bit around that notch for the southern lot. We would propose just having a straight line, so that entire notch area would be within the drainage and utility easement. The house would be outside of that. And then for the northern of the two lots, we would just require the 5-foot easement to go around the notch.
So given that that notch is 8 feet wide though, and the easement north-south would be 10, you're just trying to encompass that whole piece, but it'll be biased more towards the southern property or parcel B?
That's right. The easement would just widen out at that point.
Okay. So would that easement extend all the way back to the river, which would then therefore encompass the fence line and the gazebo then as well? Or will it stop at the top of the bluff?
I guess I'd have to look back at our notes on that, but generally, yes, that easement would extend all the way out to the river. At that point, it would be just 5 feet wide along the property line, so I don't know that the gazebo would end up being in that easement.
Yeah, I think the gazebo is just barely off the lot line, so, okay.
All right, Commissioner, anyone ready for a motion of some kind?
Chair Schwartz,
Commissioner Knobloch?
I'll make the motion. In planning case 22-9, staff recommends that the planning commission approve the subdivision exception with the following condition. 1, required drainage and utility easements are provided.
Second.
Motion by Knobloch, second by Casey. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? And the motion carries. This is a decision by the planning commission and can be appealed to the city council within 10 business days if someone so chooses. Otherwise, good luck. And moving on to other business. Mr. Brown, you have anything for us?
Yeah, I can provide some development updates. As you likely remember, last fall, we had some pretty long planning commission agendas, so we have issued building permits for many of those projects now that you've probably seen under construction. That includes the APS or NAMSA addition down on Evergreen Boulevard, the Golden Aspen Apartments near Highway 10 and Foley Boulevard. The first phase of that is now under construction, as I think anyone who's driven down Highway 10 has noticed. Some work at Mercy Hospital. Riverdale Station Phase 3 is well under construction. More recently, we've issued permits for the Golden Corral redevelopment that you just considered at your last meeting, or I should say we have applications and the demolition has occurred, and those projects will be underway soon. Also, the Dollar General on Hanson and Coon Rapids Boulevard, just issued permits for that, as well as the industrial building at Eagle Street and Northdale Boulevard. And I'm trying to remember what else. There's pretty long list, so those are most of the highlights there. As for upcoming agendas, for the June Planning Commission meeting, we have a site plan application in for the property at the northeast corner of Hanson and Northdale Boulevard, where a car wash that you had approved a year or so ago is under construction. We have an application. You might remember that original site plan approval included it was identified as a retail building on the northern part of that site. They have since come in for a site plan approval for a Take 5 oil change business on that property, so you'll be considering that on the June agenda. We also have a couple of conditional use permit revocations on the June agenda at the property at 3050 Coon Rapids Boulevard. There have been some issues in one case, a different type of use has occupied a space that a conditional use permit was issued for, and actually in two instances. So we're considering revocation of those conditional use permits. Some other potential upcoming items that we're awaiting submittals for, likely sometime this summer, we'll see a site plan application for about a 40 or so unit apartment building on some vacant land at Blackfoot Street and Coon Rapids Boulevard across from Mercy Hospital. As well as a potential townhouse development on 121st Avenue near Bluebird Street, where there's some vacant land. So certainly interest in housing as well as in commercial and industrial development. So we're keeping busy. And then finally, I wanted to introduce you all to our new city planner, Dakota Kroll, who just joined us earlier this week. We'll be getting him started on some planning cases here over the course of the summer, so you'll be seeing a lot more of him. He is a recent graduate of the University of Minnesota, completed some internships with the city of Maple Grove, city of Minneapolis, among others. So you can chat with him a bit after the meeting, but you'll be seeing more of him soon.
Thank you, and welcome.
Thank you.
Commission, anyone have anything for other business? All right. Do we have a motion?
I would move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Casey, second by Geisler. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting's adjourned.